the experiment that unveiled the powers of the mind. What if the mind has the power to shape the unseen, to create reality where there was none? In 1983, a group of scientists set out to answer this very question. Their mission? To bring a ghost to life, not through ancient rituals, but through sheer thought. This is the story of the Philip experiment, a chilling study where the boundaries between imagination and reality blurred, leaving even the most logical skeptics scratching their heads. Coincidence, or proof of untapped human potential? Strap in, history buffs, as we explore one of the most mysterious and thought-provoking experiments ever conducted. The 1980s were a time of technological curiosity, but there was also a growing fascination with the paranormal. People wanted proof, whether ghosts were real or just figments of overactive imaginations. This cultural backdrop created fertile ground for experiments that sought to bridge the gap between science and the supernatural. Among these was the Philip experiment, conducted by Dr. Alan Robert George and a team of like-minded researchers. They had one radical idea: harness the collective power of human thought to manifest a ghost. It wasn't about proving an afterlife, it was about exploring the untapped potential of the human mind. The implications, if successful, would change how we perceive reality forever. The experiment began not with the summoning of a spirit from beyond, but with the creation of one. Philip wasn't real. He was entirely fictional, conjured in the imaginations of the participants. They crafted an elaborate backstory for him: a 17th-century nobleman who fell in love with a woman beneath his station. Forbidden from being with her, Philip's life spiraled into despair, and he met an untimely end. The participants gave Philip distinct traits, a detailed personality, and even a tragic death to solidify their mental image. To make the legend convincing, they visualized Philip so vividly that his presence began to feel almost tangible. The goal was clear: convince themselves so completely of Philip's existence that external signs of his presence might start appearing. But how could mere imagination bring something unreal into the physical world? The researchers gathered in a dimly lit room with an air of focus and anticipation. Seated around a table, the participants would call on Philip during sessions that resembled typical seances. However, there was one key difference. They knew from the start that Philip wasn't real. This wasn't about summoning the dead. It was about testing the mind's ability to influence the environment. For weeks, the group tried invoking Philip, but the results were disappointing. Nothing happened. No sounds. No movements. Nothing to suggest that the fictional character they'd created had taken on any kind of presence. Frustration began to set in. Perhaps their experiment had hit a wall. But as they say, patience has a way of unraveling the mysteries no one expects. Then, something happened. It started small, soft knocking sounds that couldn't be traced to any obvious source. Goosebumps rippled through the room as those knocks seemed to respond to the group's questions. 2 knocks for yes, 1 for no. The communication system became startlingly consistent. When asked questions about Philip's fictional backstory, the knocks lined up perfectly with the details they had invented. It wasn't long before these eerie occurrences escalated. Objects in the room began to shift without human intervention. The table sometimes trembled, other times slid slightly across the floor. The participants were stunned. Was this Philip? Had they succeeded in creating a ghost? The events defied scientific explanation. The knocks grew louder, the table more animated. It seemed as if the group had tapped into a mysterious force they didn't fully understand. Fear mingled with fascination as they continued their sessions, wondering what might happen next. At this point, the Philip experiment split observers into 2 camps. One side speculated that Philip had somehow become a real entity, perhaps brought into existence by their combined mental focus. Was this proof of the mind's ability to manifest something physical, even alive? The opposing theory was equally intriguing. The participants weren't creating a spirit, but were instead unconsciously generating the phenomena using psychokinetic energy. In simple terms, the group's intense belief in Philip was subconsciously causing them to manipulate their surroundings, knocking on the table, moving objects, without being aware of it. The experiment left scientists and enthusiasts divided. The team couldn't conclusively prove that Philip was an actual ghost, but they couldn't explain away the phenomena as mere coincidence either. Unsurprisingly, mainstream scientists were skeptical. They pointed to flaws in the experiment, the lack of tight controls, the possibility of unconscious trickery, and confirmation bias among the participants. Critics argued that without stricter measures in place, the results couldn't be taken seriously. Yet, the biggest question lingered. Why did the participants experience such a consistent pattern of phenomena that aligned with Philip's fabricated story? Was it possible that collective imagination, when intensely focused, could indeed alter perception, or even reality itself? Let's take a moment to ponder the psychological aspect. Studies have shown that group belief can influence what individuals perceive as real. Shared imagination has led to documented cases of collective illusions, where communities were convinced of events or beings that didn't actually exist. Could the group's level of focus have amplified something hidden within their own minds? If so, the implications are profound. The Philip experiment challenges the very fabric of how we understand reality. Could our thoughts, under specific circumstances, generate tangible, physical effects? And if so, does this make the mind more powerful than we've ever imagined? Although conclusive answers remain elusive, the Philip experiment has left behind a profound legacy. It didn't prove the existence of ghosts, but it opened the door to incredible questions about the unexplored capacities of the human brain. Could we be capable of influencing the physical world simply through mental focus? And if collective belief is strong enough to fabricate phenomena, what does that mean for the legends, myths, and paranormal encounters we hear about so often throughout history? The experiment also inspired similar studies in the decades that followed, as researchers tried to replicate the results. To this day, Philip stands as a fascinating case study, a blend of psychology, folklore, and science that blurs the lines between imagination and the unknown. As we close the door on Philip's story, we're left with unsettling yet thrilling questions. If the human mind holds such immense potential, how can it be harnessed? Is belief more powerful than we've ever understood? And most haunting of all, what if the things we imagine, deep in our collective minds, can find ways to creep into reality? The line between what's real and what isn't might be thinner than we've been willing to admit. The Philip experiment invites us to question not just what we know, but the very nature of knowing itself. So, which side do you stand on? Was it merely an extraordinary psychological event? Or did the participants of the experiment stumble upon an otherworldly phenomenon buried deep within the folds of our subconscious? Let us know your thoughts. Do you think the mind is capable of such astounding feats? Share your beliefs or your doubts below. Until next time, history buffs, stay curious and stay skeptical. Who knows what lies hidden just beyond the veil?